Well, I've heard it said that if you give 12 monkeys typewriters and enough time, that they could write the Bible. Well, that's kind of my philosophy on working on my car here. And I'm working on a 1980 Mercedes diesel station wagon's climate control. I guess specifically, I'm trying to remove all the automatic climate control stuff and get it so I can just flick a switch and have the blower motor go on and pull a lever and control where the heat comes from or goes to. You wouldn't think it would be so difficult to make things simple, but it is. Let me show you what I've done so far and some of the tools you might need to do it. Some of the gizmos I've ripped out. Well, one thing of course you need is a book. This one's not too bad. It has a half-decent wiring diagram in it. Doesn't have much vacuum information. Another thing you need is some good strong coffee, and I like a nice oatmeal cookie with my coffee. Now, so far I've ripped the panel out. I actually sawed the panel, by the way, along the edges here, so I wouldn't have to remove everything to get to it. So I'm leaving the radio in place so far, and this was the climate control panel and everything was sitting in there. And here's the familiar, perhaps you're familiar with that, the dial that controls the resistor, where you're supposed to be able to dial in the temperature you want. And it's a nice system, I guess, if you like all that junk. So I got this piece out after I removed, where is it? I removed this thing here from that, and then pulled this out. There's little screws back here on both sides, and pulled that out. And lo and behold, there's this switch, if you can see this here. That part right there is a vacuum manifold that you actually work with the switch buttons. So this is an electrical vacuum unit. And here's the plug for the vacuums in it. Today I'm going to try to figure out where the various lines go. You can see the back of the plug goes into these the vacuum controlled switches. So whether you apply vacuum or not either lets the electricity through, or whether electricity is coming through adjusts the vacuum. So I have to figure all that out today. So there's 1, 2, 3 electrical vacuum switches, and 1, 2, 3 looks like they're also electrical vacuum switches. So it's going to be fun. Oh my! Well, that's I guess you call it the housing, and the dial went in that slot, and here's the switch that went there, with the top being defrost and the bottom being off. And I've just taken the switch apart, and well, there's two switches on the top of on the back of it where you take it off, and down below is a slider vacuum switch. And they worked, I think, other switches which worked on these, I don't know what to call them, I guess plates that have like a toothy bottom. Can you see that? The tooth in there? So when you moved it, it would slide these back and forth. Now, I thought it was going to be simple in there to figure out. Oh, and this little tab there catches on the sliders of the top part right there. Let's see, put that right there. The sliders right there and there caught on these little
protrusions there. So when you clicked it, you kind of the teeth at the bottom of these plates would force it back and forth, and also up and down, so one switch would come on, the other would go off. It's going to take me a while to figure that out, I tell you. I thought it was going to be simple. This is the assembly that was actually under the hood in the climate control, I don't know, relay computer, whatever. But that would have sat upright, and these cables actually ran out under the hood. I pulled them back in here. And also running to that thing, I think, was this rotary vacuum switch, which was mounted in this hole. So there was a rotator there that rotated over these switch positions, and also rotated that vacuum switch, and somehow that all related to the positions on this switch. Now I got diagrams and stuff, but they're tiny and it's hard to read. But oh, and all those switches and stuff were integrated into these vacuum switches and relays and stuff. So I'm tempted just to pull it all out and start over, but I don't want to get too lost. It's spring now, but come fall, I gotta have heat. I was talking earlier about 12 monkeys given enough time with typewriters that they could write the Bible. Well, I'm wondering if anybody has any monkeys for rent or something like that. I mean, I could probably put up with the smell if I could get this job done. I'm kind of just been tearing wires out for a while now. Let me show you the mess I've made and describe some of the progress. Okay, I've got, this is the hookups to the switch, and I've kind of figured out it's not going to be simply hooking 2 wires together. I think you have to hook 3 wires together, and it activates a relay or something. I did manage to trace out the vacuum line under the hood, so I've disabled all these vacuum switches, so the car's vacuum system works. In other words, when I turn the key, it will turn off now, because the turn off on a Mercedes diesel is a vacuum switch. So I can start and run the car and drive it. The lights work. Don't have any climate control at all. So I got into tracing some of the wires, and that's the underneath the passenger compartment, and I think I'm going to be able to cut a bunch of those away, the ones that dealt with climate control. Just cut them out. That's the climate control computer right there, and of course I'm not going to need that anymore. It's got a bunch of wires, and I think they all go through here, which is the climate control test plug, so I can cut all those wires out. Just pull them out, and I have to open up a couple of these bundles, and this of course is the cables that went under the hood. Eventually they'll all be shortened too, so I'm really hoping to simplify this quite a bit. It's very complicated trying to simplify something. Anyway, I guess I'm going to go on to a part 9 on this eventually. Maybe I'll have some successes by my next video. But I've learned a lot. Boy, I've learned a lot about this car.
Do a dog order. Salads. Okay. All right.